Alrighty, welcome to another episode of the Damaged Chronicles Ep.2. I do have Ryan Arnold here in the background from the Damaged Incorporated channel. He's going to stay on mute for a bit because there he is. Because of the album I'm going to be talking about here briefly. I didn't realize he didn't know it, so we're going to get right on with it. Kind of a last-minute thing here on the Damaged Chronicles episode for tonight. We're going to be talking about the 1991 album that turned 30 years old today. That's right. Fourth studio album by these Brazilian thrash metalers. Some call them death metal. Early on. And of course, early on, they did have a black metal influence too. But we're talking about Sepultura's Arise. Came out on March 25th, 1991 on Roadrunner Records, And, what I've been with this album, I first heard this album way back in 1993. Yes, I must have only been 14 when I first heard it. Yes. We got Morbid Emperor here. Welcome to the show. Now, Ron's going to remain quiet here because, like I said, he doesn't really know this album like I do and didn't know who else to ask at the last minute. So, you know what? I'm going to talk about the album. Then he's going to join in and we're going to talk about other albums that came out, in 1991. And we're going to briefly talk about them. But for now, I'm going to talk about Sepultura Arise. Yeah, like I said, I first heard this back in 1993 when I was in 8th grade. That's right. One of my classmates had it on cassette back then. I was blown away when I first heard it. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was really getting into heavier stuff around this time, too. I did not care for grunge at the time at all. And I was just still really into metal. Like I am today. So you got a 9-track affair here. On this album, you got, I would say, definitely a mixture of thrash metal. Even on this album, I think they start adding in a little bit of the groove elements that you would hear on the follow-up album, Chaos AD, but this is still quite thrashy. Now, I remember back in the day, a lot of people called this a death metal album. I mean, it's debatable whether it's death metal or not. I mean, Max's voice kind of sounds death metal, but it kind of sounds more hardcore to me. Musically, it sounds more thrash to me than death metal. Now, the opening track, Arise, is probably the most death metal sounding track on the album. It's got a really ambient beginning early on. Then it gets really thrashy, probably the thrashiest track on the album. It's around 3 minutes and 3 seconds long. It's just thrashy to the point, lyrically really simple, basically about the end of the world, the apocalypse, and arising from it. You know what I mean? I definitely love the lyric in the track. It's a simple lyric where he goes, I see the world old. I see the world dead. Just awesome stuff. Kick-ass track nonetheless. It's a 10 out of 10 track. Short, fast, to the point. The beginning of it has like an industrial ambience type of beginning that sounds very apocalypse, and that's pretty much it. So then we go into the next track, which is Dead Embryonic Cells. They put this out as a CD single, too, at the time. I believe it had a cover of Motorhead's Orgasmatron on it, too, which is on this version of Arise that I have here. It's a reissue from Roadrunner that came out, I think it came out in the late 90s. But Dead Embryonic Cells. Now, this is a track, too, where you can tell a little bit more of grooves coming into the band. It definitely has much more groovier riffs. not as thrashy as Arise, but you do have like thrashy parts within this track. And it's a bit more epic, you know. Just a great track nonetheless. Again, another 10 out of 10 track. Absolutely killer stuff. Then we go into probably my favorite track on the album, Desperate Cry. A bit more epic on this track. I love the beginning of it. It begins real ambient too. It begins very dark and creepy, but it gets fairly heavy and thrashy. So many musical changes in this track, you know, a lot of time signatures, I think, in this track. I really like Andreas Kisser's guitar solos on this track too. Just excellent stuff. He does a really awesome tapping solo part when it gets really, really thrashy in the middle. And overall, he has a really different guitar tone compared to, you know, the previous albums that he played on Beneath the Remains and Schizophrenia. You know, on here he's using a lot more effects, you know, when it comes to his lead guitar style, but it works. Excellent track. Like I said, I think it's the best track on the album, probably. It's definitely a 10 out of 10 track. Then we go to track 4, Murder. Now, Murder is just a straight-up thrashy tune, you know, very reminiscent of what you would probably hear on Beneath the Remains, you know, really thrashy, and a really catchy track, in my opinion, you know, not much to say about it, just an excellent track, you know, overall, I really enjoy it. Same with the following track now, Subtraction, yeah, track 5, Subtraction. Again, another pretty thrashy tune, you know, pretty in your face. But musically, to me, it's not much different than Murder. You know, kind of follows the same similar formula, you know, in a format. You know, it's very similar to each other. But again, really thrashy, really in your face, you know, an excellent tune. All right, so then we go to the second half of the album. Altered State. Interesting track. Now, Altered State, the beginning of it is pretty much kind of their Brazilian heritage coming into play. You know what I mean? And I think, I think Altered State's track, as a track, is a predecessor to what you would hear on probably Chaos AD, really. Not so much Roots, definitely not Roots, but definitely Chaos AD. It's more mid-paced, you know, not as thrashy, pretty damn heavy, though. Just a killer track, in my opinion. And we got Dan Powers here, Cassette Mayhem. Dan, definitely subscribe to his YouTube channel. Really awesome dude. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, it's definitely an excellent album, man. Such a classic. God, such a good album. Yeah, Altered State is a very good track. You know, I really like it. Then we get into Under Siege, Regnum, if I'm pronouncing this right, Regnum Irae. Yeah, Under Siege, Regnum Irae. Again, a bit dark, a bit more melodic. But again, it's a pretty damn heavy track too. Just a really good track. I like the musicianship on here. It's got excellent riffs on this track. Max sounds freaking excellent. He just sounds killer, man. Sounds absolutely killer, you know? Then we go into Meaningless Moments, where the thrash is turned back up. You know, a really thrashy tune. Definitely kind of reminiscent of what you would hear on Beneath the Remains. You know, overall just an excellent track, you know. I think lyrically, too, this album is much more mature. Well, I think the maturity started on Beneath the Remains, to be honest. Maybe Schizophrenia to a degree, because they started talking about more social issues, you know, starting on Schizophrenia, you know, moving into Beneath the Remains. And I think on Arise, they take it to a whole nother level, You know, where on the earlier albums like Bestial Devastation and Morbid Vision, you could definitely tell lyrically they were trying to be a lot like Celtic Frost, you know, with the satanic shit and, you know, an early Sodom and early Creator, you know. So moving on, we go to the final track. Infected Voice. Just another brutal thrasher. And hey, Ryan, can you send Xavier the link? Are you still there?
Absolutely. I'll send him the link.
Yep, he just messaged he's going to join in. Sorry about that. I just blazed through all these tracks too. That's all right though. It's kind of a last minute thing. Infected Voice though, I think is one of the best tracks on the album. Great way to end this great album. So at the end of the day, what do we rank Arise by Sepultura 30 years later? Of course, it's a 10 out of 10 album in my opinion. Now, I definitely think it's the last really good Sepultura album. I do think Chaos AD is a step down. That's what I think. But yeah, overall, 10 out of 10. We've got somebody else joining us. Maybe Xavier can chime in and talk about Arise 2 once he gets here.
Yeah, I wish I could help, but I'm not that familiar with this band.
That's all right, man. I didn't know, man. I probably should have asked. Definitely recommend it, though. Definitely recommend it. Some early Sepultura if you're not familiar. So we're just waiting.
Xavier, I can't really.
He still hasn't got the link. Nope, he just messaged me saying he hasn't got the link yet.
Yeah.
That's weird.
There, I'll send it in this one. Let's see if he'll get it then.
All right, now it's okay. It's sent. Hopefully he's still here.
Remember, you gotta add them to the stream. Remember, like I said on Tuesday.
Right, yeah.
Unless you.
Definitely.
Let's see, we got some in here. Morbid in here. Hello. If you're still here, Morbid. Cassette Mayhem. Yep. Nice to meet you.
Yep. Cool guy. Hold on a minute. I'm going to. All right, we got.
I clicked X on my browser by accident. Not the first, probably won't be the last.
All right.
There's a.
All right, here we go. What's going on, Jason? And Xavier, welcome to the stream. We were just talking about I was talking about Sepultura's Arise for 30 years. I just already blazed through the tracks. If you want to talk about it, go right ahead.
If I want to talk about it, it's so funny because I forgot that the anniversary was today.
I forgot too until I saw it over on Instagram earlier.
Yeah, I looked at it. I just remembered it was 30 years.
Right.
So yeah, track by track. If we're gonna include like the bonus one where it has like the fucking Orgasmatron cover and a few other things that were supposed to be for the album, I think.
Right. Yeah, those ones I didn't talk about. I mean, we could talk about those though. I mean, I don't know. Just tell me your experience with the Rise.
It was probably like the closest thing. Well, my first closest experience to listening to death metal.
Right.
And coming from my perspective, because I've been listening to this album for ever since I was 17 or 16, probably.
Me, I've been since 14, a long time.
So yeah, I've been listening to this for a long time now. Arise, in my opinion, is
no problem, man. Go ahead.
Arise, in my opinion, is one of I feel like they start having more of a death metal influence on this one than Beneath the Remains. Like Beneath the Remains, in my opinion, gets in the same category as Pleasure to Kill, the first Pestilence, actually first two Pestilences, Love on Creations, Ten Commandments. It gets in that category in a lot of ways, in my opinion. Like if we're talking about first wave albums, I think this is a fucking classic. I don't know why anybody wouldn't have this in their collection.
Exactly. It's definitely a classic. And it's the first album by Sepultura I ever heard, too.
It's the first.
Three.
This is, this is the second record I ever heard from them. The first one was Morbid. The first one was Morbid Visions.
Oh, no shit.
Then Beneath the Remains. And then fucking, I think Schizophrenia.
Sweet.
That was my experience of listening to those records, because then afterwards I started listening to Chaos ID. Then I didn't like Chaos ID as much. Then Roots was just like the fucking. It was just like the nail in the coffin, pretty much. It was just like the nail in the coffin. I didn't care for it. I thought it was fucking lame.
Yeah, I think it's a rather boring album myself.
I think the first few records are good, and then starts going downhill for me.
Pretty much. I definitely agree. The first four albums to me are the best.
First four are good. Arise, Beneath the Remains, fucking Morbid Visions, Beneath the Remains, fucking Schizophrenia, and then the Split.
Yes.
That Split record was really good.
Bestial Devastation.
It's funny enough, when they were, I didn't know, but when I first started listening to them, I didn't know Sarcophaga was one of the guys from Sarcophaga was the original members.
Yeah, I just found that out not too long ago either. I never actually knew that for the longest time.
Yeah, I didn't know he was the one that wrote. I think he wrote a good majority of the first album, I want to say.
You might be right. I think he was their original vocalist, if I'm right.
No, Max was, I think.
Max.
Either Max, because Max was just the rhythm guitarist, and I think, let me actually look on Metal Archives, because I know the first album is done with Max.
Jason, thanks for dropping by. Sorry, go ahead.
I know the first album was done by Max. Second album is obviously him too. Let's see. Okay. Max joined. Yeah, he was rhythm guitarist for 84 to 80. Wait a minute. Yeah, 84 he was the rhythm guitarist, and then 85 to 96 he was the vocalist / rhythm guitarist.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I couldn't really remember either. So, but that's pretty interesting. I was always curious if there's any demos out there with the guy from Sarcophagus singing on him. I've never seen anything.
I know he wrote lyrics from either he wrote lyrics or fucking. It was a few other things.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting, though. I mean,
he did lyrics for Sepultura. He didn't do vocals.
right.
Then he left to go do vocals
Right.
on the Sarcophagus INRI, and then so on and so forth.
Let's see. Trying to think. They had Jerry O.T. on lead guitar at the time, too, not Andreas Kisser.
No. Yeah, it was Tormentor.
Yeah. He was called Tormentor.
He did the bass and lead guitar.
Right.
And then he did the he did the first two, and I think he came back later to do extra leads on the Roots album.
Right.
So yeah, he did bass and guitar on for Morbid Visions and Be Still Devastation, and then obviously quickly after that, they got Andreas and the bass player.
Yep. Pretty interesting.
And then you get the actual like Beneath the Remains, and then
So Andreas has been the longest member for Sepultura since then.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
He's been there.
Outside the bass player. Actually, no, the bass player's been around longer. Pablo?
Yeah, I think he's the only original member. Pablo, yeah. Pablo Jr.
84.
Yeah, he's been there since the beginning.
So technically, Sepultura has been his band. Did he actually form it, or was it the Max? Did Max form Sepultura?
I think Max and Igor formed Sepultura.
Igor, yeah.
Yeah, I thought they did. And something happened with management where they couldn't get the name. Or, I don't know.
Weird.
It's screwed up, yeah.
You know what's weird about it, too? It's kind of like Death in a sense, because Pablo didn't do bass on, which is weird. They didn't do bass until Chaos ID. He didn't play any bass except Andre was doing on the bass lines.
Huh.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty interesting. I never
They had someone else do the bass lines, and so he did like the same thing as Terry Butler.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I always thought it was Pablo. That's really interesting.
Yeah, Pablo only played bass. The albums he played bass on are like the ones after Arise. So he did the EP, he did the Arise single, he did the live videos, and obviously he played bass on plenty of other things, but that's one of them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
To be honest, my favorite Sepultura is Beneath the Remains.
That's a great album. Yes.
Arise is good too.
Yeah, Jason Brett, he was saying in the comments section that Beneath the Remains is his favorite. That's probably my favorite too. I really like Beneath the Remains a lot.
Beneath the Remains and the second record out of that.
I was just going to say, I think Schizophrenia is very underrated.
Schizophrenia is very underrated.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't get talked about near as much compared to Beneath the Remains.
Really doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, there's some good stuff on that album from the past.
Yeah, there are good stuff on that album.
Escape to the Void.
I feel like this probably had more influence in death metal, to be honest. Like there's stories of fucking Terrence Hobbs picking them up from the airport once to go play, I think, Brooklyn or Long Island, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing a show with Obituary, Sepultura, and I want to say Sadus.
Okay.
They played a show in Long Island, then one in Buffalo, and a few others.
That's pretty interesting. Huh. It's kind of weird. You might be right now Think about it. I always thought it had more of a thrash sound, or more of a thrash type of sound musically.
I mean, I feel like the first two Sepultura albums are a good blueprint for death thrash, in my opinion.
You know what? You're right about that. You can definitely hear a lot of early death metal on.
I feel like these are like, it's like if you want to get a good example of what death thrash should sound like, these two records.
I agree.
This one leans a little bit more to death metal. This one has a good multi of both, in my opinion.
True. Just thinking here. I would say probably Morbid Visions has more of a Black and Death type of sound, or maybe Black and Thrash for 1996.
It does. It does have more of a Black and Thrash sound.
Yep.
And that there's some death metal elements thrown in there at times.
Mm-hmm. Probably.
I feel like it's somewhat like that at times. Like when I hear Beneath the Remains or like Arise, it's like in a sense where Arise, in my opinion, has more of like the Morrisound sound, because obviously Arise was recorded there.
That's very true.
And Beneath the Remains wasn't recorded at Morrisounds. It was recorded in Belo Horizonte, I think.
I think you're right. I know the production's definitely different on Beneath the Remains.
Yeah. It's kind of funny with a lot of those early Roadrunner Records albums.
Right.
Like the early death metal stuff from like the late 80s was more recorded at other studios, because I know obviously Altars and Madness was recorded at Morrisound. Slowly Rot. I don't think there's not much recorded back then in the late 80s for Morrisound outside of like Death.
Well, maybe Iced Earth.
Yeah, Iced Earth. And then when probably around 1990 hit. It's like right when 1990 hit, then everybody started going there.
That's true. I still like that production sound.
I like that production sound, especially the production sound for Scott or Jim Morris.
Oh my God, yeah. Excellent sound. I mean, the Scott Burns productions, man, just great stuff. Always liked how he mixed the guitars really heavy.
He always has a good ear for mixing. And it's so surprising how Scott literally just went from an engineer to fucking doing that.
Yep. Yeah, he retired pretty young, too.
You know what he retired to be? A fucking computer engineer.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, he's a computer engineer. That's what he does for a living.
Oh, wow. So that's what he's doing now.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I used to be a fucking producer. Produce all these fucking legendary bands. I can fix computers.
Yeah, I can fix computers now. It'd be cool if he got back into producing albums. I don't think that'll ever happen, but
yeah,
it'd be awesome. I always think, God, I love this.
It'd be great if Sadistic Pressure one day fucking let him produce for our next record.
Right. So, how is the next record coming along, by the way?
It's actually coming out pretty well.
Cool.
We have like 5 tracks down. We're almost on to like 8 or 9. I'll tell you this thing.
Nice.
I'll tell you this for sure. It's gonna be fucking killer.
Oh yeah, I heard that piece you put up on Instagram. When was that? Earlier in the week, I think.
That was last week.
Last week, yeah. I thought it sounded good.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely looking forward to it. Yep. Just reading Dan's comment here. I remember buying Arise when it first came out. Oh, wow. He bought it way back in 91. That's freaking cool.
Really? That's nuts.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Dan's a lot older than us. He's been
Yeah,
around. He definitely knows his metal.
Yeah, I'm Dan. You might be embarrassed. I'm kind of still new to this. When that album, to be honest, when that album came out, I didn't know about it because, well, I was a freaking baby.
Right. Like I said, I didn't hear it till '93. I mean, a couple years after it came out. Yeah, that would have been around the time too where I really started getting into death metal. Cannibal Corpse, Obituary, bands like that.
Cannibal Corpse, Obituary.
Morbid Angel was one of the ones I heard around that time.
Yeah. I was about to say my part of the fucking album again. Oh yeah, I forgot what I was doing. Fucking okay. From beginning to end, my opinion about this record. Arise, amazing track. When that fucking track kicks in, it's like getting punched in your sternum and coughing up blood.
I agree.
Dead Embryonic Cells, it gets a lot more catchier. And this is where Morrisound really does a lot of its great production. And I feel like this is like probably like one of the top records that Morrisound ever produced outside of like Brutality, Screams of Anguish, or Death Human.
Right.
Because that's like honestly the best they've ever done ever. This goes along with that.
I could be wrong, but I think Arise is the biggest selling of their albums.
Yeah, it is.
It's either Arise or Chaos AD, but I think it's Arise.
I think it got like fucking.
Didn't it sell?
Hot.
Yeah.
Like it got on Billboard, I think.
Yeah, I think it did.
It got on Billboard at the time, which was nuts enough. So I remember listening to Dead Embryonic Cells, and it kind of slowed down the tempo. And this is like, honestly, the good. It's like okay, it's like how I look at Blood, Fire, Death by Bathory. It has a good mixture of both. This goes to show. It's like has the fucking slower tempo shit that like goes in the groove metal territories.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, you hear some hardcore influence on like Desperate Cries, especially tracks like Murder, where it's goes fucking full ape shit.
Yeah, it's probably the track that kind of has that Beneath the Remains vibe to it. A little bit. Well, maybe it's a little more hardcore sounding.
Yeah. Subtraction is a good one. The solo in that is fucking awesome.
Oh my god, yeah.
The solo in that is like one of my favorite Sepultura solos, and honestly, that's like probably the best that Andre Kisser ever did for a guitar solo. Fucking Altered State. Altered State is a good one too. Under the Stage is a great one.
I love that track. Yep.
Meaningless Moments is a good one. Fucking Infected Voice is like the best way to end the album.
Oh my god, perfect ending to a classic album. Absolutely perfect.
By the way, guys, this is an OG press my dad actually gave to me.
I was gonna say that's definitely the original.
This is the original.
I got the remastered version.
I have that too, and
stuff on it. I used to have the original pressing on cassette tape.
Oh shit! Yeah, a lot of the old Sepultura stuff was given from my dad.
Oh no shit!
He used to be a huge fan of the early shit until he heard Chaos AD. He fucking didn't like it. He told me stories about that.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, Chaos AD was definitely a step down.
It was a step down, and he was kind of sad about it because he thought it was going to be a step above.
Like Biotech Godzilla was a decent track off that album.
Everything else is just like,
right. Yeah, there's not a lot of
thing. Album. Here's a funny thing about this record. It was mixed at the same studio as Ripping Corpse Dream with Dead. Quantum Sounds.
Oh no shit. Oh yeah, I remember talking about that the other day. Yeah.
Yeah, Quantum Sounds. That's like a label. like a recording studio that recorded Dream with the Dead, Revenant, Prophecies of a Dying World, and I think maybe some hardcore stuff. I think, I'm not sure. But I know those two albums were recorded there, and this was mixed there.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was in Jersey. It was a studio in Jersey City. Now it's a fucking restaurant.
Nice. Pretty cool. So, just reading the comment section here.
I'm looking at it too.
Remains is a killer album too. I heard Inner Self and was like sold. Bought it like 2 days later. Freaking awesome. Morbid Vision's definitely awesome.
Cassidy is underrated, but not really that great.
Yeah, I'm assuming it is. I'm assuming that I'm assuming there's probably songs on that album that really are. I would say, I don't know if y'all would agree with me on it. Though there's songs on Cassidy that are good.
They're good, but it's not as like fucking memorable as Arise or fucking Beneath the Remains.
Yep.
I would say
Roots is just a train wreck.
it really is. There's nothing good about it. It was just like
that album.
Flush it down the toilet.
That album literally put me to sleep when I heard it for the first time years ago.
Yeah.
I didn't even like it because the album cover, for one, I thought was like, this is dog shit.
Pretty much.
Like, you know, it's like you go from complex shit like this to fucking Roots, which is like downhill.
Yeah, just simplified new metal or whatever. Alternative metal, whatever you want to call it.
It wasn't even alternative. It was just like fucking push to the mill, like whatever flies, let's just throw it at a dartboard.
I mean, my goodness, you had Jonathan Davis of Korn guest appear on the album.
I mean, that just says enough.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I'm definitely not a fan of Roots. Everything after that's pretty damn forgettable, too.
It really is. It really is. It was never like... You know what was the funny thing about it is? I was upset as fuck when I heard Roots. I'm like, you know, it's like... I would compare, like, Demolition and Hammer to fucking early Sepultura.
Right.
In a lot of ways. Because I see that in a majority of their stuff.
Yeah, which is a comparison with the death thrash, you know, influence.
Yeah. It's like, Demolition, it's like the bands I could see similar to Sepultura back then was like Demolition Hammer, Protector,
maybe
Morbid Saint. Maybe Sadist at times, but Sadist was way more technical than Sepultura or Demolition Hammer.
That's true too.
Plus, not to mention, Sadist only have 5 albums. They have less albums, and pretty much, I would say all 5. I would say even if you say you don't care about them, I'm sure all 5 Sadist albums are better than at least Root.
Yeah,
I would even say. I would say probably Exhorter too with Slaughter and the Vatican. That's kind of like that style.
I still think it's death thrash, even though people could disagree with me and say like, "Oh, it's fucking groove." Like they said, it's like it sounds similar to Pantera. I'm like,
nah, it's thrashier. At least
no way.
That album's much thrashier than Pantera.
That's much thrashier. It's almost. That's like almost going to death thrash.
I mean, the only thing that might resemble Pantera is the vocals when it comes to Exhume. Excuse me.
Exhorter, yeah. I could say that a lot. Because it's like, okay. The first Exhorter album, it sounds like people say, oh, it sounds exactly like Cowboys from Hell. I'm like, oh.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
It's way faster.
it's way faster, and people have made that argument plenty of times, and it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't make sense at all because Cowboys from Hell is way more groove.
Yeah,
You know, and there's
I think the main reason why, I mean, okay, first and foremost,
Okay, but what could
smarter.
have? What could have? I'm fucking. Everybody keeps saying story, but what would be a real reason for, the reason Pantera went in the direction they went on Cowboys? Like, what would be the actual? I mean, it sort of can play into it a little bit, but what would we be talking the real influences for Cowboys?
Well, Pantera wanted to get heavier.
Yeah,
I mean, because you could kind of see signs of it on power metal, where Pantera was starting to go a bit heavier compared to the first 3 albums. I mean, if you listen to a track like Over and Out, it's pretty much a thrash metal tune.
yeah, pretty much. And I think, in my opinion, if you want to
Go ahead.
if you want my opinion about it, okay. The thing is, like, when they were like slowly moving out of that glam metal wave that they had,
Yeah.
I don't like to call it a fucking what is it? Never mind. I don't like to call it like fucking a tangent, but I would say they were on that glam metal thing, and then I think they just slowly started going away from it because everybody and their mother was trying to do it at that point.
Pretty
Yeah.
much. Everybody and their mother was trying to do it at that point. Everybody was trying to sound like Wasper, fucking Motley Crue, and they saw it got so done out of proportion to that point. And by then, thrash was getting more popular, and I feel like they just grabbed on to what was heavier at the time. It's like, oh, Sepultura, Dark Angel, Morbid Saint, Slayer, fucking Creator. It's like,
hell, basically, even to an extent, basically all of the big 4. Even if Metallica was starting to stray away from that, I would still lump in those 80s Metallica albums, even Justice, Anthrax, Megadeth, even though they were just starting, they were really latching on to that thrashier side.
Yeah.
And I guess in some cases the power metal scene too, some of those power metal bands that come off the top of my head here, Ungle, Manowar, Halloween. I would say they were kind of going in that heavier direction that those bands I mentioned were doing.
Yeah. Yeah, because on Cowboys from Hell, on Cowboys from Hell, Phil still does those high-pitched screams, like Halford or whatever.
Yeah, I would have thought
mixing in a more aggressive style of vocals too.
But you can still do that, the glam vocals, and just put it on top of some of those power metal thrash metal riffings that Dimebag was doing at the time. I feel like they had a formula right there. I would have been like, that would have worked. But they went even heavier after that. I was just like, there's a perfect formula right there. If you had just continued doing what you were doing on Cowboys throughout the rest of your career, you would be easily a big hit.
Yeah. I mean, Pantera definitely didn't sound like the other thrash band.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They definitely had their own style. Despite what people say, they ripped off Exhorder. No, they didn't.
I'm like, it's kind of funny how people say that too. A lot of times.
I'll say maybe later albums were sounding maybe Exhorder, but Cowboys, Exhorder probably only played a little bit of a role in what Pantera would become. It's basically all the other bands I mentioned, like barely a little bit, like maybe out of 100%, maybe 1 maybe between 1% and 5%, not that much, compared to all those other bands I mentioned where they have a bigger chunk, like more than 5%, 10% of what they would sound like.
Right. I mean,
I would say the Exhorder, maybe some of the Exhorder sounds were maybe later albums, like maybe say on Vulgar Display or, Vulgar all the way to probably Reinventing the Steel is where they started sounding more like, maybe more Exhorder than, all those other bands.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think the second album's much different than the first album when it comes to Exhorder.
Yeah, there's more of a presence of an Exhorder sound on Vulgar than there was on Cowboys. Like, there was more of that thrashing groove sound that some of those bands I mentioned were doing. I would say Megadeth. Megadeth were kind of, especially at that time, where we were kind of groovy a little bit. Kind of that speed, kind of that groovy, thrashy sound a little bit.
It's kind of weird. Go ahead. It's kind of weird.
Especially albums like, especially with albums like, say, Rust and Peace, Countdown. Countdown had some groove. Definitely had some groove.
Well, no. If you listen to the Power Metal album, you can hear a little bit of Megadeth influence on that album, especially on that track Over and Out, like I said. That kind of has a Megadeth vibe to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe Death Trap.
But you have to think, but who would be a groovy, thrashy band at the time of, like, Cowboys? Like, I literally don't...
Drunk. On Beg to Differ, that's kind of groovy and thrashy.
Shit. Even though I'll fucking say this band a billion times, but Ripping Corpse.
Yeah. Ripping Corpse, definitely.
It definitely has that. Shoot, I would say they have more of an influence on Exhorder than anything.
You know what? You're right about that.
Yeah. I would. Yeah.
Think about Ripping Corpse, sound-wise. Yeah.
Like, there's more people that I've seen that say, like, I show them Ripping Corpse and say, like, oh, that sounds like a lot like Exhorder.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've heard that on plenty of occasions.
I believe Ripping Corpse was out before Exhorder, if I'm right.
Yeah, I think, Ripping Corpse was, their first demo was 87, and I think Exhorder was around the same time, I want to say.
Yeah.
Maybe
86.
Ripping Corpse was 87. They started that year, and then Exhorder, I think, was 88.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yep. But pretty interesting.
Actually, no. Exhorder was a year before that. No, 2 years. 85.
Wow. Oh.
They were 85 to 84, and then 85 to 94, and then obviously they reformed in 98, then 2003, then 2000 and 2008 to 2012, then 2017 to now.
Right.
So they split up like 3 or 4 times.
Right. I think there's only one original member left in Exhorder, if I'm right.
The vocalist.
Yep. Everybody else is a replacement.
Yeah, pretty much by then.
Yeah.
They only made 3 albums, and that's the funny part.
Yeah, just 3 albums. And
3 albums, and then fucking that's it.
Well, I think the vocalist also went and I'm trying to think. I thought he went and sang For Trouble.
I think he did. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did sing For Trouble. He did 1 album with them.
Right.
In 97.
Interesting.
Which, so, what else could we talk about? The roots of death metal.
The roots of death metal.
It's kind of going all over the place here. I mean, we hear it all the time. You know, either death or possessed invented death metal. I don't know.
There's some bands I would throw in that category too. I would say even Sepultura has influence in that.
I didn't see. Yeah, I think so too. Especially on Bestial Devastation.
Bestial Devastation has that too.
I wouldn't even Slayer, even especially when you get into like Hell Awaits, Rain and Blood. Like people keep saying that those are.
That had influence in it, but it didn't have that much.
You look at some of. I see some bands, and especially like say kind of core. I hear Slayer influence heavily.
Yeah, that first record had influence on it. I would say more Raining Blood had influence on even Back to Life.
Oh yeah, definitely, big time.
Oh yeah, definitely. So Cannibal, like freaking Slayer, can throw their hat in and say, "Yeah, we helped create some bands in death metal, like easily."
Yeah.
Who else would come to mind? Like there had to be. I wouldn't say like
Protector.
Protector.
It would be like Protector. Like first wave death metal would be Protector, Sadist, Possessed, obviously. Death. Fucking Strapato, Slaughter.
Was it Obituary around part of it?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, but we're talking like 86 to 88.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
comes to mind. I'm trying to think of who else.
Pestilence, yep. Necropagan.
Yeah.
Who else? Necrophagus, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Necro, yeah.
Oh, Dream Death. I think it's another one from Pennsylvania. They were death metal for 87.
What about Living Death?
Living Death?
Or were they more thrash? I forget.
Yeah, they were more thrash, I think, yeah.
I'm trying. You mentioned it. Yet they're more. Yet this is more thrashing. Like you mentioned, they're death thrash. They're more like thrashing death.
Well, here's the thing. Let's put it this way. They're one of the first bands to start adding blast beats alongside Incubus.
Slayer. Well, Slayer obviously with Dave Lombardo, for Christ's sake.
They didn't have blast beats though. Like I'm talking like fucking almost going to Pete Sandoval. Level. Not like because Slayer they never had blast beats ever except for like one song which wasn't really a blast beat.
Yeah.
Like a blast beat in my opinion is like continuously at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the snare, fucking the kick and the ride, or whatever it could be, whatever symbol you're trying to hit. Pretty much. And it has to be in sync too.
Yep.
Yeah. The second wave death metal would be, kind of some of the obvious bands. Morbid Angel, Suffocation, Dying Fetus, Cannibal Corpse.
The second
Obituary.
The second wave would be like 91, then afterwards. First wave was like 86 or 85 to 90.
Yeah, 85 to 90.
Cannibal Corpse would be thrown in their first wave.
They were around in the first wave. Obituary was around then. Sepultura, Morgoth.
Morbid Angel.
Pestilence.
Yeah.
Atrocity, Atheist.
Definitely Atrocity.
So let me think. 91 times. So that would have been Suffocation. Would have been around that time.
Yeah, Suffocation. Yeah, Suffocation was around.
Dying Fetus.
Malevolent Creation.
Entombed, obviously.
Dismember.
Oh fuck yeah!
Well,
Intrum was 90. Remember, Left Hand Path came out
80.
in 90, so they would be
No, that
around
was 80. That was 89, 90. And
that's first wave
this,
still. Yeah, Entombed's
yeah, it's still
wave.
first. That's still first wave, and then still technically bordering on that first wave would be Autopsy. Well, yeah, they were around before that actually.
Yeah, because what Severed Survival was 89.
89, and then there's a few others out year too, and I would throw Carcass in.
Maybe Deicide.
Deicide, yes.
Yep.
Even Fairy. I would say throw in Nickel Death if you wanted to. They would probably be, even though they're not death metal, they would probably be thrown in there because they were around in
they
the
were
80s.
They were catching on to it. Well, obviously they were like the founders of grind. And then
grind would be kind of a grind would kind of be a form of death death metal in some case. Because it's using aspects of death metal in some cases, like the guttural vocals that death metal is known for and stuff, the screams and stuff. I would say
that actually came from Crust actually. That wasn't from grind. Because grindcore was originally thrash metal, speed metal, crust punk, hardcore, and some D-beat stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's what crust punk was. And then pretty much death metal was just thrash, like going to the furthest extent.
Mm-hmm.
But grind was like, okay, take Celtic Frost, Creator, and Slayer and mix it with like bands like Discharge, fucking The Accused, and then mix all that together, and then that's how you get grindcore.
Pretty much. I'm trying to think. One of the earliest bands to use.
Wait a minute, guys.
No, go ahead.
Hmm.
Uh-oh.
Wow, did we just get quiet all of a sudden?
I'm just waiting for Xavier.
Fuck.
Now, I'm saying one of the earliest bands to use blast beats was actually DRI.
Oh, yeah, I know about them.
Even SOD. A couple of the earlier bands from hardcore punk, crossover thrash.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, it's almost 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So we talked about Sepultura. We talked about death metal a bit and its origins to an extent.
Let's see if I got. I would have to. I want to start seeing if I can figure out an album that I think we could talk about from 91, about to have a 30-year anniversary.
We should talk about Dreaming with the Dead, guys.
Huh?
Let's talk about Dreaming with the Dead. That should be another one we should do a 30-year anniversary on.
Well, ain't that 92?
That's 91. That's a year before 92.
I'm trying to look and see what I got in here that I'm like.
Unleashed, Where No Life Dwells,
Yeah.
What else would be good that was coming out that year? Mental Funeral.
Corpse, okay, yeah. Autopsy, Mental Funeral. Butchered and Burnt by Cannibal Corpse. Deaf Human.
Effigy of the Forgotten.
Yes.
Suffocation.
Oh hell yeah. Butchered. Someone said Butchered and Burnt from Cannibal Corpse.
Yep.
What's in there? Blessed Are the Sick from Morbid Angel.
What's up, Chuck? We got Chuck Hawkins here. Chuck Hoskins here, good friend of mine from Podcast and Stone. We had Jason Brett here earlier from Podcast and Stone. So everybody, welcome to the chat.
Wait a minute, I have to go, guys.
Gotta go.
Okay.
Yep. See you guys later.
All right, later. Okay, let me see what I got. What do I have in this that would be worth talking about?
Well, we got Metallica, the Black Album. That's probably the easiest one.
Yeah, that's the easiest one.
What else do we got?
No More Tears for Mozzie.
Yeah.
For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge from Van Halen. Pearl Jam 10. Yeah, I pulled it out. Yeah, it's a 91 release. Use Your Illusion 1 and 2.
Yeah, those came out in 91. It's been a long time since I listened to those.
I'm trying to think. No, there wasn't a Rolling Stones album in 91. Was there a Kiss album? No, that would be 92. Megadeth. No. Anthrax, no. Slayer, no.
Oh, Anthrax had Attack of the Killer Beast, but that's not really an album.
Yeah, that's not really. Dream Theater, no.
Fate's Warning had Parallels.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
What else?
Oh, fuck.
Metal Church, The Human Factor.
I wouldn't be aware of that one. Let me try and think of what if we think of some other albums. We don't have to just necessarily think of 91. You know, there's other albums that would have better anniversaries too. You know, as long as they ended with a 1 and a 6. So 86. 86. There's some that come to mind with 86. Master of Puppets.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Master of Puppets. Killing. No. Peace Sells, but Who's Buying?
Yep.
Rain and Blood.
Yep.
Somewhere in Time. Turbo. The Ultimate Sin. God, no. That would be one I would not talk about. Well, what else? There's gotta be some glam albums from that year.
Got the first album by Poison, not Open Up and Stay On.
Oh, look what track did. Yeah, that one.
Not a fan of Poison.
Let me try to think. Was there any Rat?
Yeah, Dancing Undercover. You had
was there any Wasp in 86?
I think there was.
Can't remember. Oh! I just remember Van Halen 5150 from 1986. I think Edom and Smile from David Lee Roth was in 86.
I think you're right.
That had Steve Vai on guitar and Billy Sheehan on the bass.
Haven't heard that in years. Let's see, you got Darkness Descends by Dark Angel, Creator, Pleasure to Kill. Nah, that was 87.
I'm trying to think of what else. Bon
Jovi, Slippery When Wet. Fuck that
album. The only good out of every Bon Jovi album, the only good one. But that's not saying much because
I think the first two are better.
practically the only Bon Jovi album that matters, practically, or is relevant. Everything else is just, or them just doing freaking country. Look at them now, Jesus fuck.
The first two I actually don't mind, but I'm not much of a Bon Jovi fan after probably Slippery. I'm just not a Bon Jovi fan, actually.
I was thinking Whitesnake, but then I realized they released it in '87, so they're out of the question. Shit, who else? I can't really think of anyone else. What about
King Diamond Fatal Portrait, the first King Diamond solo album?
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, there was no Merciful Fate. There wouldn't be a Merciful Fate for a while.
No.
Unless there. Wait a minute, wouldn't there would be some compilations in between?
Yep.
But nobody really counts them unless you want to count them. Let me try to think of 80. I'm now thinking 81. That's 40 years. Point of entry from Judas Priest. Yep. Killers from Iron Maiden. Fire Down Under from Riot.
Oh yeah.
For those about to rock, we salute you from AC/DC.
Yep. Def Leppard, High and Dry.
Hell freaking yeah.
Shoot, Crocus had an album in '81. I have it on vinyl too.
Shoot. I can't remember if there was a Stones album. I always know Rolling. There might have been a road Tattoo You, maybe.
Maybe, I can't remember. Black Sabbath, The Mob Ruled, 1981.
Hell freaking yeah. Diary of a Madman from Ozzy Osbourne, 1981.
Oh, Hardware came out in 1981 by Crocus.
Ah, okay. Is there any? When did? Wait, no. Wait, Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin had to release their last album in '81. What year was Coda?
82, I think.
Oh yeah, that's 82. Okay. Let me try to think who else.
April Wine, Nature of the Beast. I talked about that earlier in the year. For 1981. I know there's albums. So Holocaust, The Nightcomers, new wave of British heavy metal band.
No, not Diamond Head. They released Lighting in the Nation came out in 1980. Wasn't there a Glam? Did anybody the Crew come out with an album in '82 or '81?
Yeah, Too Fast for Love, the debut.
Hell yeah.
Great album. Oh jeez. Oh, Saxton, Denim and Leather by Saxton.
Okay, I want to go a little bit forward for 91. 1996.
Well, you had Metallica Load.
Wasn't Roots in 96?
Yep, another yuck.
What else was in 96? What else was in 96?
Pantera, The Great Southern Trendkill.
Tool's Anima came out in 96.
See, Cannibal Corpse Vile.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's a killer album. 96. I'm trying to think.
There was no Rolling Stones that year. Wait a minute. There had to have been, wasn't there? I don't know. There might have been an AC/DC album that year. Maybe that was 95.
Ballbreaker came out in 95.
Yeah, that was in 95. No, there was no Ozzy in 96. 95 had Osmosis, so that one's out of the question. I can't really think of anything from 96.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Korn came out with an album. I don't know which.
Oh yeah, didn't they come out with Life is Peachy? Yeah, that was 96.
Okay,
In Flames
2000.
Chester Race. I think Morning Rides by Opeth came out in 96.
Yeah.
I know there's a bunch of other albums I'm missing.
I can't think of anything else from 96 unless I look at my freaking. If I look in here, there really wasn't much.
Overkill, The Killing Kind. Yeah, 96 was a pretty weird year.
2001. That's 20 years. There are some bangers from that year. Down to Earth from Oz. Yeah, Blackboard Park. Down to Earth from Ozzy Osbourne. The Sinister Urge from Rob Zombie. Lateralis from Tool. Iowa from Slipknot. Toxicity from System of a Down. What else came out? 2001. Shoot.
Yeah.
No, wait, no. Not Linkin Park.
Rage Against the Machine, Evil Empire, 96. JC Rock. What's up, JC Rock and Metal Reviews? Welcome to our podcast show.
JC, what's up, dude?
Yeah, definitely subscribe to his channel. He does reviews. Really cool guy. Does some good reviews. He's pretty new around here, so yeah, definitely give him a subscription if you're not subscribed to him.
Yeah. See you in here, JC. We were just thinking about albums from 2001, and we rattled off some good ones from that year.
Yeah, we're just naming off a bunch of random albums now.
Yeah, 2001. I'm just trying to think which one, because I would definitely know that 2001.
Megadeth World Needs a Hero. Well, not the best Megadeth album. But
yeah, no.
2001.
Wasn't there? There had to have been a Slayer album.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. God Hates Us All. Yeah, that came out in 1996. Or 1996, 2001, I mean.
2001, yeah.
Dude, I bought that the day it came out. Oh, I got a creepy story about that. Because that's the same day September 11th happened. And that album, September 11th, that was something else. And I already had it pre-ordered. So that was kind of really bizarre going to pick that album up that day at the record shop after 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
I still have my copy too, or the original copy that I bought that day. And no problem, man.
Yeah. Some of those, I was kind of starting to get aware of the heavy. I think around that time, I might have been, I was in elementary school at that time. I was starting to get aware of some of the, I really was getting self-aware of rock and stuff like that, but not to a degree. Like, again, there really wasn't much for me back then, but then going to them now as I got older and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I could understand that some of the bands that I later on discovered some of the bands that I liked and seen some of those albums from those years. I think the only thing that I was close to getting around that time might have been Rob Zombie with the Sinister Urge.
That came out in 2001 too. The Sinister Urge.
I happen to own it, even though it's kind of a beaten up one. If I can turn on my camera real quick.
Right.
Yeah, I have it. That's the CD I have for it.
I don't have my copy anymore. I used to have it. I just reordered I ordered a White Zombie album earlier today.
I really don't care. Aside from the last two White Zombie,
I ordered
really don't care.
Yeah, I ordered La Sex. I can never pronounce it. La
La
Sexo Cristo
Sexorista.
Devil's Music. Yeah, I reordered that again.
La Sexorista. I'm not how to
Yeah,
pronounce that.
it's weird. Yeah, I ordered that again. It was only $6. I figured I'm gonna grab it. I need it again. I still have Astro Creep on CD.
Awesome.
That's all I have from White Zombie.
I would definitely get that out. I think I might have had Astro Creep at one point, but I think that it went away, I think, relatively quickly.
Yeah.
But I would definitely, if I did, I might have had it or not, but if I did have it, I definitely would get it again. It's a really great album.
Yeah, I'm still debating whether I want to buy the new one. I saw it at a record shop. I almost picked it up the other day, but decided not to.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the heavy tracks on it. I do think there's too many musical interludes on the new album, but the heavy tracks on it, I think, are actually pretty decent.
Let's see. I'm going forward to 2006.
All right, I'll be back here in a minute.
Okay.
Gotta take
I'll keep entertaining while I think of.
Yep, just keep on entertaining.
Just trying to think of albums from 2006 that come to mind. Fuck, who else comes to mind? 2006. Shoot. I thought you were gonna go, man.
Oh, okay, never mind. Don't want to do that.
Oh, what happened to me?
No, I'm just trying to figure out. Never mind. I'll be back. Still trying to get used to StreamYard.
Yeah. Okay. Let me try to think of who else comes to mind. 2006. Oh yeah, cool. 10,000 Days. That comes to mind. I only got that a year after it came out. Who else? No. Who else came out of those 6 albums? No Metallica. I didn't know about Anthrax. No Metallica. Oh yeah, Breaking Benjamin. Phobia. Was there? Wait a minute, no, wait, that was another thing. Shoot. Fucking hell, who comes to mind in 2006? Oh, you're back!
I am back. I am back already.
I was having trouble figuring out.
Fun of another.
2000.
For 2001,
I said 2006.
Oh,
I'm on the.
Oh, Iced Earth Horror Show came out in 2001.
Oh, nice.
I think Arch Enemy Wages of Sin came out in 2001 also. Or maybe it was 2002, I forget. I'm thinking it was 2001 though.
Yeah.
That would have been the first album they did with Angela on vocals. Hard to believe it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
Trying to think, for 2001,
I basically rattled off most of the big hits from big albums from that year.
Right. Yeah, right now we're
It's
just
hard. It's hard to think of albums. I can barely think of anything from 2006.
Ozzy Osbourne Down to Earth came out in 2001.
Yeah, I already mentioned that.
Oh, did you? I must have missed it.
Yeah.
Creator, their comeback album, Creator's Violent Revolution. Kick-ass album. I mean, that album was their return to thrash after experimenting in the 90s.
Yeah.
Because they kind of went more goth metal in the 90s and a little bit industrial.
Yeah. I couldn't think of anything from 2006, so I'm instantly thinking of albums from 2011. That's a 10-year anniversary thing. And I really think to myself in that year, that's
yes,
where
Sodom, yes. Sodom M16 came out in 2001 also. Yep. Good one there, man. That's a great album.
2011, I instantly think Anthrax Worship Music. I instantly think Dream Theater, Dramatic Turn of Events.
Queensryche, Dedicated to Chaos. We don't want to talk about that mess. Or that great Morbid Angel album that came out in 2011.
Oh, God. No, I'll tell you one that's even worse than that one. The one that can top, that makes Elusive Imminent Sadness look good.
Which one? Oh, you know what? You might be right. Oh, that album. Lulu. That
would make freaking Elusive Imminent Sadness look like they made a masterpiece right there.
I am the table. Yeah, yeah. I am the table. Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. But some of the other good albums from 2011. Stain's last album that's been a while, their self-titled 2011 album. Searcher Rising from Amon Amarth.
There's rumors they're making a comeback.
Oh, they are. I've been aware of it. I'm like, yes. I'm waiting for this album to come out. I'm wanting a new Stained album so badly. It's been 10 years.
I mean, the last one was probably the heaviest one they did.
Oh, it was so fucking good.
Actually,
what else is there? Oh yeah, I was a big fan of this band back then. The Devil Wears Prada, Death Throne, especially coming off of they came off a banger of an EP in Zombie in 2010, and their Death Throne was them. They were, I think, Adam D from Killswitch Engage produced them on that album. Helped produce that album, and it was a pretty damn good album. I actually liked it. It's one of my, I had it in my top 5. It was that one, Searcher Rising, Stained Self-Titled, Anthrax Worship Music, and Dream Theater's a Dramatic Turn of Events. Other album from that year, In Flames, Sounds of a Playground Fading. I loved it. I fucking loved it.
I'm one of those old In Flames fans. I'm not much into their modern stuff. I think the last In Flames, the last In Flames album I enjoyed was probably either Clayman. Well, I do like some of them. Reroute to Remain. Reroute to Remain's not a bad album, but man, I can't think of much for 2011.
I mean, what came out in 2011? Well, I'm looking over here on my thing. No, there was no friggin' was there Iron Maiden? No Iron Maiden.
Man, that's
yeah, that was a 2010 album. No, Rob Zombie Hellbilly Deluxe 2 came out 2010. Shoot. No. I just can't think of off the top of my. Oh wait. Born of Osiris: The Discovery. They have Jason Richardson, who plays for All That Remains now on guitar. And that was the first time I was like, first time I heard about them, like, okay, who's this? I checked them out. I played a song for them, followed the songs, and I was instantly hooked. I kept playing that for several years until I was like, you know what? I'm fucking getting that album.
I don't know why I can't think of much for 2011 when it comes to metal albums.
Let me think. Well, Tesseract 1. Tesseract 1. Who else was there? The Human Abstract Digital Veil. I believe that would be their last album for a while. They haven't done one in a while. Who else? What else? This would have been easily a Gen year. The year Gen was starting to take hold and stuff like that. But you did have. Between the Bear to Me.
Oh yeah, that's
that Parallax. The Parallax Hypersleep Dialogues EP that came out that year. The Black Dahlia Murder Ritual came out that year.
That came out. I can't think of much for whatever reason. At least anything that stands out to me.
I'd have to look in here on my.
I could think.
We were mentioning Opeth. Heritage.
Yeah, didn't Opeth put out Heritage in 2011?
Yeah, they did.
First album where they went completely
a different direction. Yeah, well,
definitely 70s. And
I stopped caring about Opeth after that. Just didn't care for them and stuff.
I mean, there's people out there that like it. I'm more into the earlier Opeth myself. Up till I think the last album I enjoyed by Opeth was probably I'm gonna say Watershed. I think Watershed's the last great album they made. I actually really like that album too.
I've been meaning to get into that album for quite a while now.
Watershed, Ghost Reveries is a great album.
Oh hell yeah!
That's a fucking masterpiece, actually. Oh, what albums were before that? Damnation, Deliverance, Blackwater Park, Still Life.
My Arms Are Hers.
Which was the very first Opeth album I ever heard way back in 2000. Way back in 2000. First one I ever bought, too. They had this website years ago. This is how I found out about Opeth. They had a website years ago called darkwood.com. And it had a bunch of these like dark metal bands on it. And they had Borknagar on it, and Opeth on it, and I think it's Slaved. A bunch of different like darker metal bands. And Opeth really stood out at the time.
Yeah, and, they were so. I think the first time I didn't want to get into it because they were named after a YouTuber I despised. But what made me change my mind about Opeth was I was playing a game called Saints Row 2, and on the metal station they had Ghost of Perdition on it, and I got
a great song.
I was instantly hooked. I was like, God, I've been avoiding this band for so damn long. I've been missing out on something good. What?
Yeah, Opeth.
I stayed away from him for a while. I think I was then getting. Because I never got Ghost Reveries. I've listened to it on sometimes on many different streaming platforms. The first album, and so far the only Opeth album I ever owned was Blackwater Park. I was like, you know what? I want to give it. I think the first time I heard about this was Brody, and I think he had the top 10. And he had 3 albums that were separated from the top 10.
Yeah,
the 3 at the time were Pink Floyd's "The Dark Side of the Moon," Tool's "Lateralis," and Blackwater Park.
Sweet.
I went and got. I already knew about Tool at that point. Because I was a big Tool fan at the time, I was like, hell yeah, freaking Tool. I've gone back and listened to the album and think to myself, damn, this album is perfect. I don't know much about the Dark Side of the Moon, but I was at first listening to Opeth's Blackwater Park. I liked certain aspects of it. I loved freaking Leper Affinity, and I loved Harvest. I absolutely loved those. It took me over time. It took me over time to listen to that album. I think I was listening to that album maybe this would have been around 2015, and kept listening to it and especially listening to it on work when I had an iPad, and this was early on when I was making videos on an iPad where that shitty camera quality that I had on it.
God.
And
Yeah,
it
their
was just,
quality's pretty shitty on the iPads. I tried making a video on mine. It turned out like shit. I just deleted it.
I
Then
was
I'm
like,
like,
I was just like, you know, it's good enough for what it is and stuff like that. I'm sorry and all that stuff. And it was listening to that album non-freaking stop. There were only a handful of albums I was listening to at work when I was working at Dollar General. Blackwater Park was one of them. Ghost Melior was another one. The Book of Souls from Iron Maiden was another one. What was another one? Disturbed's Immortal Life, the special edition one. And I was listening to those on Apple Music and stuff. And listening to those regularly. It was to the point where I started loving the Opeth album that I was like, okay, yes, this album is fucking perfect. It's fucking perfect.
Sweet.
And I eventually got it on vinyl, and I don't regret it at all. I love that album.
Yeah, that's a beautiful looking vinyl. I remember you showing that to me.
Yeah, and I don't regret the purchase at all.
I'll tell you what, man. I found a couple Opeth vinyls here, pretty pricey. They're around. I think the cheapest one was $40.
I forgot how much mine was. Did I get it at a
packaging?
I think I got it. I might have got it at a record convention. I can't remember, but I might have gotten it separately or something. I just bought it on my own or something like that on a website or something like that. But
right. That's pretty cool. So yeah. Yeah, it would have been 21 years ago when I bought my first Opeth CD, My Arms Your Hearse. And the song Demon of the Fall. Demon of the Fall. Oh. Holy crap, that track.
I remember. Oh my God. Fuck yeah.
Demon of the Fall. Yeah, just so killer. Then the ending of that track, when he gets to that melodic vocal part near the end of it, I'm like, this is fucking good. So I got hooked on Opeth at the time. Went out and bought Still Life, bought Blackwater Park when it first came out. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't regret ever purchasing that album. You know, I may have been late to the party because at the time when I didn't know about Opeth when it first came out because I was just a kid.
Yeah.
You know,
you're younger. You're a lot younger than me.
Well, yeah.
What, 10 or what, by 12 years? You said you're 30, right?
Yeah, like I said, by the time when I first purchased it, it would have been like maybe 14 years after it came out. Right. Around that 2015, it was just, I don't think I was at my dad's at the time, and we went to a record store. I was like, you know what, I'm going to buy this. I've been wanting to listen to this one for quite a while. So I went and purchased it, and don't regret it. It took me listening to it on a shitty little iPad to make me fucking love that album. And I don't regret it.
It's a great album. Classic.
As far as other Opeth albums, I would definitely give Ghost Reverie, Watershed, My Arms Your Hearse, and Still Life. I think that would be
Oh yeah, it's definitely. Now, my favorite Opeth album. That's a good one. I've never ranked the Opeth albums. I'm going to say probably my favorite Opeth album. Oh my God, them early albums are so freaking good. Probably Morning Rise. I think Morning Rise might be my favorite Opeth album. I could have picked. All those albums. Their first 7 or 8 albums are just brilliant. But,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it just depends on. Yeah, it's tough. Even I can't rank all of them because I've only listened to maybe a handful of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never ranked their albums. I don't know if I'll ever do a ranking for Opeth. Because then
Me neither.
Then again, I'd have to torture myself and listen to the last 4 that I honestly don't really care for.
Yeah,
Heritage.
dude. Yeah, I'm kind of glad I'm only doing it for Mike and stuff. For King of Swords, because he did it the best way. He did it the best way he could do it. Just do top 5 and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Probably the best way to do it. Because Heritage I can't get into. Sorceress I couldn't get into. I can't really say much about the new one because I haven't listened to it yet, but I can already tell I'm probably not going to like it. What was the album before or the album after Heritage? I forget.
What was it called? Shit. I can't remember either.
I can't remember either. My brain's foggy on it. Well, I guess we'll have to look on Wikipedia.
Of course, Wikipedia.
When you can't remember things.
What is Sorceress?
No. It was. We're going to find out here in a minute. Oh, Pale Communion.
Oh, yeah, Pale Communion.
Yeah, didn't really care for that album either. Then the new one's called In Claudia Venerum.
Incauda Venenum.
Or Incauda Venenum. I don't know. Don't really have much desire to listen to it. I really wish they would go back to their death metal sound. I mean, at least add some death vocals in like they used to.
Yeah. Maybe they should just get someone who can.
Yeah, because I heard Michael Ackerthy can't even sing that way no more. That's what I've heard. Or he's not into singing. Excuse me, he's not into singing that way no more.
Yeah, and then there's sometimes when he can't, because age catches up and stuff like that, and you can't do it like you used to anymore.
Well, yeah, your voice does age.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why a lot of bands, that used to tune in like standard tuning back in the day, drop their guitars down now. So
yeah, like you see bands. I wouldn't be surprised if Iron Maiden, their next album is just they down tune their guitars and stuff because they realize of how much.
It's kind of weird.
It would kind of help Bruce's vocals a little bit.
Right. What's kind of weird because when Bruce was doing his solo albums, the guitars were tuned down.
Yeah, because it
sounded good. I want to hear something different on the new Iron Maiden album. I don't want to hear the same.
I would say, I'm not expecting to hear him do what they did on Book of Souls because I don't think they can. But if they were to do something like what they did with If Eternity Should Fail and go more on a down tuned path, hell, I'd be all for it.
I think they should start tuning down. And they've never did an album where they've tuned down. All their albums have been in E tuning.
I think they should at this point. You know, it's
I-
like doesn't hurt to change. Doesn't hurt to change. You know,
I even think
You've been-
fucking Metallica. I even think Metallica should start tuning down to E or down to D. Because James Hetfield don't sound good at all anymore singing the high E stuff.
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of bands. I mean, like, yeah, when you reach a certain age, you know, you got to kind of switch it up to, well, for the vocalist, you know. Like Megadeth, they tune down now. He started tuning down on that garbage Super Collider album. But like Dystopia, that's a tuned down album. And I think it sounds good.
Yeah, if you start tuning down, it could help your vocals a little bit, you know.
Yeah, it makes it easier because
you look at a drummer like with Megadeth with like Dirk, you see what Soilwork tunes down to. It kind of helped because obviously, you look at freaking Bjorn and his style of harsh vocals. It's kind of helping him a little bit, especially I've been getting into them since living Imminent. They're one of those. It's like they really tune down low, like really. Like I'm trying to think. I think they either tune down to B or A or something like that, and
yeah, that's a really low tuning. Drop A.
So if they, I don't say freaking Megadeth drop down to that. You know, it's like maybe say I wouldn't say maybe D, C, maybe a high B, maybe not like B standard, maybe more of like a B flat or something like that. I'd say that could save his vocals, or even some bands like Iron Maiden or some of those older bands start tuning down low. It's like, you know, Adrian loves that kind of tuning. You know, he loves doing down tuning. I mean, look at what he did with Bruce Dixon on his solo stuff. Look at freaking the Chemical Wedding.
Yeah, like we're talking.
Awesome.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other night when Chronic was here. Yeah, man, those albums are excellent. I mean, and they're tuned down. Yeah, they sound great.
I would even say Dream Theater should start doing that too. I mean, for Christ's sake, if I'm hearing John Petrucci is using an 8 string, I'm like, I'm expecting low tuning.
Well, the next album's supposed to be really heavy.
I'm like, this could potentially, it could help James with his vocals and stuff like that. Because you look at the stuff, especially on his solo stuff, that's pretty low tuning. He can still belt it out and stuff like that, but it gives him breathing room because they're using, you know, some of his solo stuff. There's another vocalist on there, and it gives him some breathing room. Look what they've been doing as of late. It's just like, bleh. Although Distance Over Time was pretty good, you know, it's like them getting back to making good music again and stuff like that.
Right.
I'm expecting heavy, freaking. You know, I'm expecting James to maybe have raspy vocals or something like that. I don't want freaking screechy because he can do, especially if you look at songs he sings live, like say Pull Me Under. He can't do that shit anymore.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these guys are, you know, I mean, like I said before, the voice changes when you get older. I mean, my God, the Scorpions even tuned down now. And they've been around for.
They realized.
Well, Claude's Main.
Since the 70s.
Yeah. Well, Claude's Main, he's 72 years old now. He can't hit those notes anymore. You know?
Yeah.
Well, I think it gives it a cool. I mean, it gives it a different sound. Yeah, don't get me wrong, but you gotta make the vocalist happy too. You know.
Yeah. But it comes to the point of where, especially with Dream Theater, the hearing of the 8-string guitars that John is going to be using.
Yeah.
I think it's time you need to start getting some other. You start to realize you need to get a different vocalist at this point. James can't do the same stuff anymore. You've been having. He's been the vocalist since Images and Words in '92.
Yeah, and they're in their 50s now. Not that age has anything to do with it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, you look at some of those guys. You see John. He can still musically. He can still go. Guitar-wise, he can still go. Everybody who's doing the music can still go. Yeah. It's just that you need to get a different vocalist. It's time you need to get another one. Let freaking James LaBrie focus on solo stuff. I would be all for more James LaBrie solo albums. They're fucking good.
He put out one. When was it? 90 or not 97? 2007. I forget when his debut came out. It's been quite a while.
Well, he had put him out in the 90s under Mo Musler, and then it became
James I remember Mo Musler,
and then it became just James LaBrie around 2006 with Elements of Persuasion. 2010 was where 2010 Static Impulse was where they were starting to go on the whole melodic death metal. That's when I think they brought in Peter Wilder to do the harsh vocals and the drums and stuff, and that's the lineup they had. And they continued that. They had that same lineup on Impermanent Residence, but they also brought in for that album Wickers from Soilwork. He just left Soilwork, and he's on the more recent James LaBrie solo album.
Yeah, I got to hear that.
His solo. There is going to be another James LaBrie solo album. It's just going to be totally different. He's working with someone from Eden's Curse he did like a guest feature on one of their albums for a song called No Holy Man with the band Eden's Curse, and I forgot the guy. He's doing basically guitars and bass, and they're doing this acoustically. Oh, and then obviously Marco Sofoglu, who's been on all the James LaBrie solo albums since Elements of Persuasion. He's going to be on there, but not only that, on drums, James LaBrie's son, Chance LaBrie.
Oh yeah, cool. I think you're telling me that on Messenger.
I'm so excited to hear how this sounds. It makes me think I want this to be good because you're coming off of freaking Impermanent Resonance, which for me was my 2013 album of the year.
Yeah.
And I freaking loved that album. I freaking own it. Get it. It is so damn worth it.
Nice. Gonna have to look that up. Check it out.
I think to myself, if they could just let James LaBrie go. Let DT15, whatever it's going to be his last. Get somebody new, get somebody fresh who, can do the stuff that Dream Theater is capable of. I still say, I give or take with James LaBrie, either this one's the last one or the next one. Because I think to myself, he can't go anymore. Let him go and do his solo stuff. Like I said, I'm all for more James LaBrie solo albums. I think he does great on solo albums, but I just don't think everybody's aged, but it's his vocals. They just aren't the same as they were back in the day. I just think to myself, they need to let him go. Like they need to let him go and just let him, do his own thing. He's been the vocalist for so damn long. I think to myself, his vocals started getting, on the previous album, This Is Overtime. His vocals, they were trying to do the auto-tune thing. He can't sing that great anymore.
Oh yeah, when they go to add auto-tune into correct it, yeah.
I would say his vocals, like live, were starting to get shot. Like, I think to myself, T15 needs to be it for him. Like, you need to get someone else.
Yeah, and Dream Theater's one of them bands too. They're pretty consistent. They don't really take a lot of breaks. Because usually
they could. It would be. Yeah. I would think if you wanted to take, I would say
every couple of years, a new album drops.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Mike Portnoy. I think with what Mike Portnoy said that they should take a break. I think he was looking out for James's voice because he kind of knew James wasn't getting good.
Right.
I'm starting to think to myself, I'm agreeing with him. You need to just let him go. Either that, let him take a break, let him focus on other stuff. Let John make more solo albums, make more LTE albums, which would be freaking awesome.
Right.
Jordan Rudess can do more solo stuff. I know freaking Mike Benji can do other stuff outside of Dream Theater.
Yeah.
For Christ's sakes, he got into that because he was the original drummer on James the Brief's solo albums when they were Mo Musler and James the Brief Mo Musler. He was even on Elements of Persuasion before they got Peter Wildur.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm saying let them just go and focus on other stuff. I would be all for it,
Right. I mean, yeah, he probably should definitely take a break. Well, I think Dream Theater should probably take a break because they dish out albums like every 2 years.
Except for the most recent stuff. They did with between The Astonishing and Distance Over Time. That was a 3-year gap.
That was a 3-year gap.
It's usually a 2 or 3 year gap.
Yeah, it's not real long.
Yeah, I would kind of like Portnoy. Like, they should have just taken a break or something. So had they taken a break, we wouldn't have gotten a disappointment in the self-titled and freaking we all know The Astonishing.
All right.
It's just no.
I don't know if anybody's still in the chat. I haven't seen anybody comment. If anybody's still here. I know we're kind of going all over the place here. We did talk about Sepultura Arise in the first half for the most part.
We did mention some albums. We did mention some albums that are having anniversaries this year.
Yeah.
But I'm not counting albums that were released 5 years ago. They will have to wait till 26.
So yeah, we definitely covered Arise earlier in the episode. Now we're just kind of talking about random stuff.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty much the whole point of this podcast. Talk about whatever comes to mind. Yeah, we actually had nothing planned for this. We're just kind of going off of whatever at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
So again, we apologize for this rambling, but that's just how it goes sometimes.
Right. Exactly, man. Exactly. So I believe the next episode's going to be on Tuesday. We will definitely plan something for Tuesday as far as the topic goes. I mean, we were talking about maybe ranking the Aussie albums. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But we will definitely have a planned episode for Tuesday. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to have, to make up for having to let him go. Love to have Hoover on board and see if he'd be willing to do it on Tuesday nights and see if he can come on board so that we can at least, it'd be you, me, and Hoover, just going over, Ozzy Osbourne.
We could do that. Yeah. Definitely. Totally. But I think I'm going to end the stream here at 10 o'clock. Well, probably right now, actually. I mean, we've gone almost 2 hours. We're going to probably try to go 2 hours every Tuesdays if we can.
Yeah.
So thanks to everybody that stopped by. You know, hope you all enjoyed this episode. I mean, and
Yes.
you got anything else to say there, Mr. Ryan Arnold?
Yes, I do have some things. Obviously, this coming Saturday on my Twitch channel, SGG_Jamora #1, and all the letters are lowercase. I'm gonna be doing commentary once again on an online race for a league called the Online Endurance Championship. This is their second to last race at Sebring. I'm gonna be joined by someone in this friend. Me and him are going to be doing commentary on it. It'll be I believe a 1.5 hour race. It'll be different cars there, LMP1s, LMP2s, and GTEs on there. So come and check it out. The video will also be exported over to YouTube, but that will be on Saturday. And then obviously Monday, that Monday, there will be a album review for me. I might do it live and basically say that this will end up being the last video. So I figured do it live and all that stuff. And it'll be me reviewing Soilworks' most recent album. They call it an EP, but it's a full-length album. A Wisp of the Atlantic, and basically saying goodbye and all that stuff. So, yeah. I figure that's all I wanted to say.
All right. Interesting. Yeah, coming up here on Damaged Chronicles, you know, I want to do an album ranking for Accept. Got an Axel Rudy Pell collection video coming up, which actually was going to be the video for tonight. But at the last minute, I decided to change my mind. And that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah, pretty much.
But anyways, thanks to everybody who tuned in. Spread the word. If you're new around here, hit the subscribe button. Go over to Damage Incorporated, subscribe. Find us on Utreon also. Do you want to tell them the Utreon link before we leave?
Yes, if you want to go and check that out, I'm sure he'll leave a link Ben here will leave a link in the description for that, as well as our YouTube channel and obviously my Twitch channel, which I will send you a link to that on your way. But obviously, yeah, I believe that is it. Also, follow us on Instagram. We have to have an Instagram. Come join our Facebook group. Also, our Discord server. We're trying to promote that as well.
Yeah.
Yep, I will send links to those your way, Ben, at the end of this live stream.
All right, sounds good. I will post them in the description box later on here so everybody can see it. And I believe that's all we have for this episode. Like I said, thanks for tuning in. More to come. More to come. So keep it metal, keep it real, and thanks to those who joined in tonight. All right, peace out.
Yes. And as always, keep things metal.
Right on.